Wonderful. Thank you. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the second meeting for the Vincent Community Board for June. And first up, I have got no apologies today. Tony is joining us online because, bless him, he doesn't want to share his germs. And the first thing that we have up this morning is the public forum. Welcome, Andy Davey, to talk about all the stellar night sky proposal.
Hello again, kia ora. Yes, I haven't got lots of pictures for you this morning, but we'll keep it quite simple. But I've got the facts that I'm going to be talking to on here, so I wanted to grab that for reference. Yes, so I'd like to propose that we form a Dark Sky Reserve working group, involving Stella Festival Trust and COVC and VCB, and whoever else would be able to make it happen. So I'm just going to briefly go through. I'm sure you've heard me say this many times before about why protecting the night sky, human health, environment. Also, there's economic benefits as well in regards to a different type of tourism. Why central as I go, and again, repeating myself, it's the unique dark skies that we've got here, make it, I think gives us a responsibility to look after. I mean, I'm a relative newcomer here, but all you guys that have lived here all your life and all the generations before you have been able to enjoy the night skies that we've got. And I think it's up to us to protect it for future generations to be able to enjoy them as well. So that's being able to see the whole of the Milky Way, being able to see the aurora, having clear skies in regards to good weather and climate, and low aerosols. Thank you for that information, Roger. Also, this month we're hoping to hear from lotteries in regards to the application for feasibility studies for an observatory. So if that was to go ahead, protecting the area from lightning, that would make it more feasible to go ahead. So a dark sky reserve is the best option to protect it. That is, as we've discovered and through communication with Dark Sky International, that is their recommendation. So what is a dark sky reserve? That is simply where you have a core area which is absolutely protected. That's got the pristine dark sky, and the purpose of the reserve around it, periphery around it, is to protect that core area. So the core area we think is most appropriate is Flat Top Hill Conservation Area. There's already no lights there, so part of the application for dark sky reserve is having a lighting plan for the core. It's easy. There's no lights. There's not going to be any lights. So that ticks that box easy. The second part of what's required is some provisions in local laws and lighting provenance to protect the peripheral around it. You're just finishing Plan Change 22. That gets us most of the way there. But through creating this working group, we'll find out if there's any holes in that and what needs to happen to be able to achieve that dark sky reserve status. Now, a dark sky reserve is not something unique. We won't be the first people in the world to do that. There's already two in New Zealand, which is the Aoraki Mackenzie country. Slightly different because they had the Mount John Observatory, which they had to protect, and the University of Canterbury, and a lot of heavyweights to be able to create that way back in the day. But Wairarapa have recently achieved dark sky reserve status as well. So that's been done via council ward status. I think it's Carterton and South Wairarapa district boards protecting their area. Mm-hmm. So I've got all the lighting provisions that are in there for them different districts, Mackenzie, South Wairarapa, etc. And the recommendations from Dark Sky International. And I'd love the forum with you guys to be able to see what else is needed to protect it. So yeah, I think most of that is covered there. And to maintain the dark sky status, it requires regular checks, annual reports on progress, and having outreach activities. So all these things that are required to maintain are things that Winchester has developed to do, not intentionally, but it is what we have become. Anybody concerned about it being a restriction on economic activity? I'd like the fact sheets behind to dispel that. It's why the rapper are doing it. I'm not sure they're not planning on just sitting around doing nothing. But the one that stands out to me is the one in Germany where it's less than half the size of the Vincent ward and there's 70,000 people living there. So it's not going to stop the sort of economic activity which you'd expect. So, yes, is there any questions?
If I could actually make a comment here, I read an article recently by an American physicist. She was born and bred in Los Angeles, and when they had a clear sky, she'd go out and she could see the moon, and sometimes she could see Venus. That was it. She could see no stars at all. It wasn't until she was a teenager she had the opportunity to get out into the country. She saw the Milky Way, and it was such a huge contrast. And so many people in the world don't have the opportunity to get out and see what we can see on any clear night. And I think it's easy to take it for granted, but I think people coming from overseas in so many cases see that as something quite remarkable. And I think the Dark Sky Initiative that Andy has spoken about is really, really important. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Andy? Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sure.
Yeah, don't go anywhere. And now we welcome Nigel Murray and Inga Dykes to talk about the Lower Mannerburn Working Group. Welcome, nice to see you.
Right. I'm going to start with a pocket tapping from an artist called Stephen Channing, or Tataya poem, which means I am nature and nature is me, because it speaks to the reason why we are doing what we're doing at the Lower Mannerburn Reserve. I'm Nigel Murray and this is Inga Dykes, and we're part of a fairly ad hoc group called the Lower Mannerburn Reserve Working Group. We just decided as regular users to do something about the neglect, in a sense, of the environment in the area, and got together with a few people and started planting a few trees there. And we've talked at various times to CODC and PCB about it. We don't really have meetings. We just talk about what we want to do and then get on to it, because this does take time. So generally, Inga and I can concoct a plan and then see if there's anyone else who wants to help and get on and do it. So I want to tell you a little bit about the Lower Mannerburn Recreation Reserve, which I think it's officially called in the council documents. Because as local government councils, you probably understand the required consultation for a reserve management plan, which is ultimately our aim. And the Lower Mannerburn Recreation Reserve is one of those council reserves that doesn't yet have any official documentation to support its development. Nevertheless, it's used by a lot of people, even after the global warming that has meant that we get much less ice and much less ice skating, which was its main feature. Thank you for that, Andy, to remind us. It's used by swimmers and paddleboarders and kayakers and ice skaters still. Every season there's maybe an odd day or two where you can get out there. Horse riders, dog walkers, picnickers, and other nature lovers like us. People who come from out of town go and explore the district. They drive in there, have a look around and think, wow, what a fantastic view. And also locals. I've bumped into a local farmer who drives his kids up there every day, just after dinner, get a bit of outdoor experience and settle down before they go to bed. There are people who discover the reserve and stay there for just a moment or two. And there are those who bring their kids and spend hours there. The people like us who used to walk our dogs there all the time, people who go there with their horses, and people who just like to get out of town somewhere quiet because it's looking out over Galloway and Marthine Station. It's a quiet back corner. If you haven't been there, it's really lovely to be around. There's also the inevitable hooners and their vehicles blasting up and down the hills, and four-wheel drivers who see it's an extension of their right to drive anywhere they like. But we have a lot less motorbikers than we used to, because apparently that is one of the issues before our time in the district, which seems to have changed quite a bit. Mostly, it's just a lovely, quiet, relaxing corner of the district, which we as local ratepayers and some have access to, where a lot of farmers have their own special corner like that. And I think in about 2017, the pine trees were cut down for half the reserve, and the first cleanup following that wilding pines removal was done last year by the Central Otago Wilding Conflict Control Group. Various predecessors to Inga and my involvement in the reserve planted all sorts of species around the main ice skating area mostly. So there's a little bit of other addition to the reserve by other people. And following that example, we formed the Lower Mandurah Reserve Working Group to start planting along the beachfront, which was done by our predecessors. And in each planting season since then, we've added a few more trees in our limited way, with a limited number of people and resources. Volunteers have weeded and watered through the season, so we kept what we planted in the ground going, and so they are now just starting to move to some of them anyway, to the age where we don't have to water them, so that we be able to support themselves. That's the plan. We haven't done this alone, of course, because we've had various collaborators from around the area, and we understand that the CODC, particularly this year round, and BCB will have significant financial limitations, and we're not here today to ask you for money. So don't worry about that just for yet, but we will. And we want to remind you that when we started into this process in 2021, we understood that there was a reserve in the council holdings of some money for development in the reserve that came out of the removal of the ice skating buildings and stuff. And so that's never been defined, and we've had several occasions where we wanted to know what that really was, but we still don't know what money there has been set aside. I guess this is probably paper money rather than real money in the bank, but it's part of the budget that we hope will still be available for work in the reserve. We've had support from the VCB in the past. In 2022, we applied for and received a development grant to do some of the planting that we have done there. And we give you notice we will apply the next time round. Obviously, we are also part of IARPA, and IARPA has found and supported our planting and helped organise things. As have Fulton Hogan, who volunteered some time. Contact Energy, obviously, that funds most of the plants. The Central Otago Wilding Conflict Control Group has come in and do some work there at the council and our request. And there's a few local contractors who just come and move things around for us to help make what we do happen. The volunteer base includes many of the people who we saw this weekend up at Half Mile, and who assist with us in our planting, and they have also contributed some money for the work we've done today. So moving on to where we are now and what we want to do next. Our desire is to continue enhancing the native biodiversity of the Lower Mandurah Reserve and to basically double the planting that we've done there to date. We don't want to be stuck doing 30 or 40 at a time, which is all we really find time and money. And I think the Half Mile experience was the difference you can make on scale if you move things on scale. And to that end, we received a grant from the ORC to plant trees following the removal of pine trees. So that in some senses, half the reserve has already had trees removed, but we want to validate the support from the ORC by removing some more trees and planting them there as well. So our plan now is to engage with VCB and the CODC to start the removal of those remaining wild conifers, and to get some plants on the ground, depending on what we have finances for, so that we can then move this project on to a thing. And we realise that it'll be moving it to scale will need a different funding source, and that's why we applied for an ORC grant. They didn't give us all the money that we asked for, funnily enough, but this is where we are. We want to be able to work with what we've got and to move forward. And so we are looking at alternative funding proposals for the wildlife control, with some support from the control group. And one day, we'll develop a reserve management plan, which is obviously what we needed. But in the meantime, we're sort of moving on a project by project basis. So we're not asking for VCB for money at this stage, but what we do need from the VCB and the CODC in order to take up the money from the ORC and to move forward with more planting there is a management agreement from the CODC, which none of the CODCs aren't going to work with VCB approval, aren't they? To proceed, basically approval, an agreement to proceed with the plan to plant trees, and then obviously the pines, which ORC doesn't want anything to do, has to fall into an alternative proposal. And so we're looking for your VCB support for the whole of our dream for the reserve and all other council reserves in the district, and also specifically to support the management agreement, which we will have to negotiate somehow. I don't know, hopefully the VCB can facilitate that. So that's us. Are there any questions?
What's your relationship to the Manabee Reserve Committee, which is a formal committee of this, of this board?
And I believe you met with or some people met with the committee, and the committee it helps us with our plantings and supports us in most of what we do today, but they don't function as an operating committee as far as I can see. And so they'd be happy for us to work with or through or without them.
Because members maybe where there's about 45k sitting on
That's correct.
an account. There was
Specific money.
I mentioned only the least. He is straight away. Yeah. A lot of the work that you currently doing was performed by that committee in the basis.
Yeah.
And they removed the old BMX, the motocross track, which was there. One of the reasons why you're not getting motorcycles there as much as you used to, because it was actually a functioning flood there at one stage about 20 odd years ago. Do we need as a board to bring your group of volunteers together with the existing committee and sort of possibly act as a catalyst to formalise that relationship? And well, you seem to be the working arm, and they may be sort of having more of a governance role.
Roger, do you want to?
Can I expand on that, Martin, because
Please do.
I'm the VCB rep on that committee, and the committee has been discussing disbanding because it's no longer doing anything productive. Inga and Michael's group is the one that's doing the serious, the hard work, and the committee itself is really achieving nothing now.
Exactly, yeah.
So almost certainly that will certainly be disbanded rather than being a liaison
Need to be bringing new people in.
Yeah, well,
Hasn't brought new people. I guess the average age of the committee is rising. And, as I said, it hasn't really achieved anything in the years that I've been with them.
so instead of disbanding this committee,
We've got people right here.
when it's,
Do you volunteer?
yes, yeah. Would you be volunteered into sort of a little more formal structure which already exists?
Does it need another committee level? We don't want to do meetings.
Is that where you're considering that option, and you might want to tie in, David, with how a volunteer committee with a semi-formal relationship would work as opposed to a formal committee that does have obligations around meetings and minutes and registers?
Through the chair, Nigel, Inga and I, and Gordy, we met, September last year, was that when you having this discussion with Roger as well? And just, I guess, having discussions, and I think the reference to the half mile is a great example of, 120 people. How do we, one of the things we talked about is how do we move those volunteers around, all of our reserves and things like that. And after that meeting, to Roger's point, we had the discussion with the committee around did they still want to be in it or not. And I think they're meeting this month from memory through their AGM. I think just they're meeting in June to have a catch up and decide a way forward together as a committee. But then there's the balance of if we keep a committee, it might be something on paper that has to come back to this board to decide if we want to keep a committee, given if you guys want to remain a working group without the structure of a committee and having to do AGMs and things like that. So it could be something that we propose to you as Steve as having maybe a friends of or something like that we can hold the formalities and then work with groups like Nigel and the bring them to life.
Because it'd be nice to see those funds being used for what those funds are dedicated to.
Yeah.
Especially while we've got incredibly willing.
Who are not 103.
But I do appreciate that Nigel and Inga would like to spend their time planting as opposed to attending meetings.
Yeah.
So, are we happy then that this is a work in progress currently, that something
Well,
we will move forward in the next little while?
Also, they are seeking some support from us as far as that ORC funding is concerned.
Yeah.
And
Is there a date on that you have to have it uplifted by?
In 6 months by November.
By November.
so is that simply basic? Is it a letter from us
in support.
in support? Is that what is required?
From November.
Isn't that what you can use it for?
Specifically say management agreement.
Okay.
In the
Plan. So
No, not plan, a management agreement with CADC, VCB for our project. So it's like project specific as far as I'm aware. We are hoping it is because we want to apply for more money next.
yeah, so it could be a bit of an MOU between
Yes.
and CADC.
Yeah.
I wonder, like it's 6 weeks between the next, is that too long for you guys to wait? And just on the fly here, but if we could bring that back to this board in 6 weeks, and hopefully we might have some direction from the committee as well, and get some real clear direction for everybody.
Yeah.
If that was, if everyone was comfortable with that.
Because where my thinking's going is if the current management committee wishes to fold.
Yeah.
Then, and this group doesn't want to be a formal group, then this board could then take on a more formal role as far as that's concerned and be the liaison, because we do committee meetings.
Yeah.
And quite well, and do the liaison through this process, and that would give these guys some structure as far as funding, getting other funders on board, but we could also then give them permission to actually spend the funds that we're managing under our reserves.
Yeah.
Works.
Yeah.
Well, we look forward to potentially being in 6 weeks.
All right.
Congratulations on securing some ORC funding, because I understand that was not a particularly easy process potentially. So,
Highly It's competitive.
Very competitive.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who missed out.
Yeah.
Yesterday. Well done.
It's a limited amount of funds, some of it, yeah, small basket, and lots of people wanting to go to it, yeah. Well done, Tony. It's,
Thank you.
you're right. It's-
So we could press on with our plans. Your plans are planned, you don't actually do anything yet.
Yeah, I guess
Yes, we can do so, yeah.
together we'll come back in 6 weeks to the border.
And then that's what,
And stuff.
that
Yeah.
should be able to formalise a relationship.
Yeah.
And,
That's good.
Next up, we come back in 6 weeks and perhaps we can then have some considerations around what the formal structure looks like, because we don't want to become a hindrance to seeking funding from some leaders. So
Yeah.
yeah, need to make sure that we're not,
Maybe we'll,
I guess, closing any potential doors for funding by being an arm of council as such.
and maybe we'll have enough details to talk to you about the fine tree removals that we might be able to fund.
Wonderful. Thanks very much for your time.
It's exciting.
Thanks. On page 6, you will see our declarations of interest, which we all looked at last week, and I'm sure we have looked again. So we're wanting to update them to Sarah if there's anything that you need to change. And then we welcome Rebecca and Andy Davey and Wallace to talk about ADMI funding development.
Yeah. Good morning. And for my very neat notes. Not very neat. So as required by the grants policy, any grant recipient that receives over $10,000, part of their accountability is to come and report back to the board. So that's what's happening this morning for ADMI, or otherwise known as Central Stories. I do have just a couple of wee points. You'll see this is from the 22-23 financial year, which is when we gave that little bit of a top up just to get the alignment with our grant cycles, and so that's now in. With the change from an LTP, we were hopeful that we were going to look at multi-year funding agreements this year, but since we haven't got a long-term plan quite yet, that's been postponed a year, then we'll be looking at that next year. So these guys will come back again in the cycle that's closing soon. I'm sending out email about it today. But I just want to take a minute to reflect on the accountability that we've submitted and the increase in action, if you like, that's happened at Central Stories ADMI. I think it's been, you'll note the visitors numbers have improved, the number of special events and exhibitions have grown, and I think it's all thanks to these two, particularly Paula, who has worked extraordinarily hard to make amazing relationships in our community, probably working far too much, but it's doing a great job, and I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge that, because I think it speaks for themselves. So this is really their opportunity to celebrate their work, and to respond to any questions that you guys might have as the committee. So I'll hand over to these guys.
Thank you very much.
Andy's the talker. Paula's been busy writing the notes.
Let's treat your report as read.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't really need to address it, and this is particularly what you can highlight.
They've got this.
Yeah, yeah, thanks, Martin. I won't talk much then. Yeah, I think what the most important thing that we feel we need to highlight to you guys is it's not just a museum. It's not just a museum and an art gallery, and it is them relationships that have been built up with the other communities around Central Otago that it is our strength, and is the strength of our community as well. So, you know, we are still a museum to locals who are wanting to research the family history, or even Warner Brothers International, who have been using our resources for a TV show. You know, Who's Your Father, or whatever it's called.
Who do you think you are?
Yeah. That was the answer on that question.
The New Zealand version of that.
No, it's Australia. It's
Australian version.
and one of the celebrities ended up having grassroots in Alexandra. So we spent quite a few days, not weeks, researching the 3 families from Central Otago with them, and no, it was quite neat. So they're going to keep in contact when they're back to France, so we can all watch it. And
Yeah. So we still do our important task of being a museum and a repository of all that information, and over 12,000 artifacts. So I wrote it in big writing, but I had to bring glasses because Paul has added lots more notes to my. Oh, this wasn't on mute. Well, it's kind of, well, this is the sort of thing we get up to down the museum in the evenings. Yes, so we're also an event venue as well for Arts on Tour and shows like that, and heritage talks, and the Amateur Dramatic Society, the Musical Society, the Regional Orchestra, choirs, all sorts. And this little bit of film I've included as well to show where, by being a hub, a collection point for lots of different media and so on, we had Liz Conway playing the piano during Mental Health Awareness Week. Marion was drawing her paintings. We had artists in there as well. And if you notice round the side, they had lots of pretty cool astrophotography shots as well. So the exhibition's there. But what happens when you mix these things together is you can get a wee bit of alchemy, and we hope to be able to demonstrate to that in a couple of weeks with the Clear Skies short film that's been made with Liz Conway and the Winterstellar group. So that's what we do. We're listing lots of other organisations and so on that we work with. ATO Astro Tourism Academy came down for a conference couple of months ago, and that's really helped with what I was talking about previously and making them connections with Dark Sky International. Vice President was the regional coordinator, and lots of the team from Mount John and Canterbury University, and they're all on site to help us in what we want to pursue with that. So that's all because of the museum was there as a place to do this. So
it's become quite a community hub now. And when I started this job a couple of years ago, they, you know, I was sort of like, well, once that's over and once I've got all those ducks lined up, I'll be able to get down to sensible work hours and all the rest of it. But what's happened by increasing the outreach to the community is that, you know, basically our workload's almost doubled. And it's just all these wonderful things like we're supporting Willow, we're supporting the War Collection, all these things we do for free for these people, because it's important. It's in a wonderful building, and we did the conference, which we're able to do. Is that not free for that one? So what we're able to do is reach out to these people. We've got Alexandra Beautiful doing an exhibition next month, where, you know, all these things are quite neat. On top of all that, over the last year, we've managed to make the shop Everything Central Otago. So so now 90% of our products selling in there are made or produced or written or whatever from people in Central Otago, and that just gives people a destination shop to be able to go, gives producers a place to retail their goods, and it just highlights just so many different things. One more point. Last week, for instance, we had a deceased estate, and they asked us to go to this deceased estate too, because there's a lot of Māori artefacts there, and he sure did. Massive. Luckily, not knowing what I was talking about, I luckily managed to track down two archaeologists who came out with me, local people, and honestly, I've never seen two guys so excited. There was rare oddstone sinkers, there was all sorts of things that we're now trying to do the provenance to and everything else. One of the leading New Zealand experts is down in Otago, Gerald Reagan. He's now going to come up in summer and analyse the collection as well as analyse ours, so we can finally tell our story, the Māori story in our museum. But he's going to do like an antiques roadshow where he's opening it up to the community. So if anyone has got any Māori artefacts or whatever, They can bring them down to Central Stories, they can have a big public day. So all these things are happening all the time now, and it's just, it's incredible. I get to see the good side of people all the time. Those are amazing volunteers when we started having some volunteers in dust and high truck cleanup. Yes, they need.
Teaching us how to use the technology is great, isn't it? There's only two things that you haven't mentioned here.
Sorry.
No, that's cool. Do you want to hear me? So the school activity programs as well. So that's hopefully will have inspired a few kids to take on whatever is in the future, and also the welcoming communities, which is part of your group, and like having a Vanuatu exhibition and so on. So I think that's from school. Yeah, I'm happy. Any questions?
In the report, you mentioned that you're trying to get to the 2 FTEs.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I might have already just answered this and you probably knew it yesterday. But when do you anticipate that you'll be able to get to that 2 full-time? Full-time equivalent.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 full-time staff members.
A long way away.
Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't be able to open the doors without the VCB funding that we get. But that literally covers half of our running costs each year. And so we just scramble the whole time just to.
You need to improve revenue from other sources and the activities that we already do. We're not there yet. I'd like to think that we would be able to get that in short term to be able to have that extra half FTE. Yeah, because how we've got to where we are is not sustainable in the long term. So yeah, we would appreciate your ongoing support and something that's more reliable and permanent long term, so we can have more confidence in then making plans.
We've got a great team of volunteers. We definitely need 2 full-time staff. And I'm just in a lucky position in my life where I don't have, well, she got off the apart from music, very outstanding. And so I can't remember the last barbecue I went to actually. So it's just one of those situations. I'm happy to dig it in for another year, so to see if we can make it, because our whole goal is to make it sustainable. At the moment, we've got eHive. We're actually recording, so that's the collections thing that is in every museum around the world, around New Zealand, including Te Whāpara and all them. It's cloud-based. We've got a team, probably 10 volunteers who are going through, putting every single item we have at the back, because a third of it's not even a session, actually doing proper descriptions, photographing, all those things are happening at the moment, and we just don't want any balls to drop, because once all this is done, it's going to be amazing. People have, because at the moment, I have 2 or 3 people a day, come in and go. Uncle Frank donated his watch in 1957 to ADMI, and we're going to see it. And at the moment, I can't actually show it to them because I physically go out there, and I do, but sometimes it takes hours to donate these things. And it's become an area where people, especially now with the world growing so much smaller, people have dispersed all around the world. It becomes a place where people can actually view their things, as well as the fact that it's historical significance.
Yeah, so getting an old collection online is something that we're working on quickly, but it will take time to learn the new process. Any other questions?
But there's not answer, sorry.
Yeah, Rebecca's comments earlier about next year's LTP and having Central Stories as a line item, so you don't have to go through this process every 12 months. Because I know how stressful it is to do this.
We're proposing a 3-year grant, so.
Because I think that allows you to have that surety and allows you to put in planning over that 3-year cycle. Again, and I'd also like to just reiterate Rebecca's comments and congratulate you two and your team for the work you've done. As a board, I've seen a substantial growth in the activities in that incentive stories and your outreach programs. Well, a week doesn't go by when you don't hear or see something that you're doing. So, and I think it's just take the opportunity to acknowledge that because you're doing a great job. And my biggest worry is, Paula, you're going to suffer from serious burnout, and cloning technology is not where it should be right now. Okay? So we are conscious of that.
I actually don't know what to do about it, to be quite honest, Martin, because every area is so important. But, you know, like, I mean, our two activities alone is a full-time job. Museum's a full-time job. This top 100, can't wait till that's over, because as much as exciting as it is, it's a lot of pressure at the moment. But it is what it is, and we're some trying some of the challenges. Melbourne sees up and get into it, and Rowan's the one that has to tea on when I get home, which was awesome. I couldn't do it without him, actually.
Is that something that you would like highlighted? Are you continually looking for additional volunteers to help out, or are you looking all right at the moment?
Well,
Managing volunteers is a job as well.
you can't actually take too many on at once. You've got to get them trained up, get them to a place where they're independent. And yeah, I've got volunteers I haven't even phoned because I haven't had time to actually spend time with them to get them involved. There's something worse than being a volunteer, turning up and twiddling their thumbs. So you've got to be ready to accept them as well. And it's just finding that time.
Absolutely. And I think, like Martin said, it's really important to acknowledge the great team that you have in behind you, Paula, that is enabling you to do the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. And the volunteers increasing all the time. We're just, they're incredible. They're absolutely incredible. So, before I get to good everyone all the time for the amazing job.
Yeah. And I think, as Marty and others have commented on this morning as well, you certainly have this board's thanks for the progress that we have seen out of Central Stories, for the amazing things that are on offer, and for the really welcoming environment that you have created for children, because often people don't want children in places where things can be knocked or bumped or touched or grimed on, and that you are always so welcoming to the school and the kindy communities, and the kids love it. So hopefully that is sparking a lot of really enthusiastic young potential archaeologists and geologists and all of that to come through in years to come. So thank you very much for your lovely report. It is very heartening to see those increasing numbers in both monetary terms and in terms of who's being able to access the in through the doors. Well done.
Can I just make one? Sorry, it's a gigantic issue.
Yes.
But next year's LTP is a 2-year LTP, essentially. So I'll just make that point, and then it would be a 3-year cycle. It's just this little change of government that we've got.
Blame this current government.
I'm going to.
So our recommendation on page 9 is that the report be received. Martin, would you like to move
I'd
that?
love to move that.
Thank you. Jaden would like to second that.
Yes, yes.
Those in favour? Against? Carried.
Thank you. Thank you.
We are now going to, skip ahead, Sarah, and Saskia will bring us the financial report, which you can find on page 56.
Good evening, members, and I apologise, we're a wee bit short-staffed on the accountants side this morning, so you have to bear with me. I'll do my best to answer questions, but I might need to take questions away and come back to you. So you'll see on the first page of the report there that overall you have a favourable variance of 162,000 against the revised budget. So that is obviously good that we're tracking well there. Your income is also favourable, 168 million there. However, that is balanced out by an unfavourable variance in the expenditure of 1.51 million. You'll see in the report the explanations for those variances. A lot of it's to do with timing of when we receive income and expenditure. The particularly good news, I think, in your financial report is your capital expenditure. So you have expended 60% of the total revised budget. This is something that local government does struggle with, is to expend our capital budget. So that's good. It means that things are happening in the bits of board that we're planning to happen. And you have your reserves table attached as per normal. So I'll open it up to questions and discussion, and I'll do my best.
Wonderful, thank you very much. Questions for Saskia?
Just a clarification that in relation to the rates and then the catch up. That's a reset in the catch up.
Yes, so what's happened here with the revaluations is it means across actually all our wards that there is an adjustment that is required in terms of a portion of rates. So for Vincent, that's an additional 30,000 this financial year, and ongoing it's going to be more, which we have dealt with in the annual plan.
Thank you.
And I anticipate, Tony, you will just sing out if you have any questions to highlight. Given we've only got a couple more weeks left in the financial year, but any indication that 60% might move slightly higher for our CapEx expended, which is already great, I will highlight.
Probably the big thing coming up really is the Alexandra Library refurbishment. So we probably won't see a big cost this financial year. That'll hit next financial year. I can definitely take that away and come back to the board an update of where we're going.
I guess just next meeting we will know what that percentage is, so that will be fine. Yeah.
Just another big project is Rebel Park as well, which is underway, and that'll be another big chunk of that, so.
Yeah, I guess just the only other thing was and it is explained in here in relation to the Oncarroll Rec Reserve, cabins and the playground. Two separate projects, obviously.
Yeah.
On the matter of the playground, whereabouts are we at with that? Is that still to do with
That's where
the delay?
game is having it delayed, so it lines up with the hub.
Yeah.
So I guess given the funding and where that's at, the idea of it was to hold on to it. So when the hub goes, that goes as well, because we might have to shift the playground a little bit.
So it's just in the only good thing that I would note, and I may have brought this up at a previous meeting, was that the playground, it's getting not necessarily financial, sorry, but I'm bringing it up now.
Yeah. The weeds, is it?
The weeds in the playground.
Yeah.
So just to make sure that keeps being monitored.
Yeah, we'll make sure it's on the radar for this season and get it done absolutely.
But I have to say that the hockey turf and the tennis courts look fantastic.
Yeah. And just for note on that, still a little bit of work to be done with the supply. That's not a fait accompli just yet, but it's coming along. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. If there are no further questions, then can I have somebody move that the report be received, please? Thank you, Di and Roger. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Saskia?
Okay.
And continuing districtisation council activities.
Thank you, and thank you for accommodating this early agenda as well. So this paper in front of you really just puts down in writing the material from the workshop last week. And what it also does is really outlines the opportunities for engagement and feedback from this board. You'll note from the paper as we went through last week that council ultimately was to further districtise activities as outlined in the paper, that there'd be a slight increase to Vincent board payers over the 10 years that had been followed. So given that you've seen this information before, I'm not going to labour through it and present it all, really just open it up for further questions that you may have at this time. Discussion.
Any questions on that for Saskia? Followed by comments.
What's next? We, as board, we will put a submission to council
Yes, and that's primarily, the conversation I'd encourage, today from this board. So there's two options, of which the board does not have to, if you do not wish to. The first one is for the chair or delegate to come to the next council meeting on the 26th of June and to provide, initial informal, feedback from the board, questions that you have, things that you don't think have been clarified enough, to enable us time to go away and work through that. And then also, and we would encourage this, is a written statement from this board so that we can include that as part of, the paper that will ultimately go up in July, to council.
And I would suggest that that is something that we are looking to do, and I would also raise whether, given that I'll be at the meeting on the 26th of June anyway, whether it would be appropriate for Jaden to join as the delegate from BCB.
Yeah, not
If you're
silly
happy to
idea.
do that, Jaden?
So is now the opportunity that we take to discuss this, or are we going to have to make another opportunity to?
Well, I would think that perhaps in terms of Jaden coming and contributing to that next meeting on the 26th of June, if there are particular questions that you have in relation to how it would be applied in the Vincent area, that now would probably be a good time to raise those so that we can, I guess, have a view or an initial point, or if there are any initial questions that we think that Jaden should be bringing to the council table around seeking more information and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I guess this probably ties on just because I've had got my council hat floating around in the background. The endowment land and what that looks like for Vincent. That it's very specifically as in what it is, so that that's very clearly defined. And also on the flip side of that, where that endowment money is actually, where the boundaries actually exist for the BCB, because it's not necessarily going to extend to the entire Vincent ward anymore, I'm picking.
So really further clarification on the information that's in the maps.
Yeah,
Just
just,
beneficial.
yeah, just to make sure.
Yes, as it was raised last time,
Yeah.
for example, if it has been left to the Alexandra borough, then potentially it couldn't be spent and Clyde and
Yeah.
vice versa.
Just real, very, very clear on that.
And there's quite a lot of detective work needed in this, and we only have sort of one officer in this space, so we'll endeavour to do our best to assist you, Jaden, prior to the 26th. But that team member is in another division from mine, so really want to talk to the manager about how easy this is to do and we'll bring the information out, because it depends on the original agreement around the endowment. So we have to trace back in history, so it's just not easy in our system that we can just go away and whip it out for you, so we'll do our best there.
And when I guess, do people have any views initially on districtising those last couple of big ticket items, which are pools and property?
I think spreading
Everybody already paid for them.
spreading the load makes it more equitable for everyone in the community, because we see the smaller wards that carrying perhaps a disproportionate financial load. No, I think even though there's a slight cost for Vincent ward, it's make it more equitable across the whole district.
So what do you?
No, I'm pretty good with it, and I think with having Jaden going as well, we'll have 4 from the end of December down to the meeting, so.
Three, because I won't be at that meeting.
Well, that's 3. But if I had anything up to before the 26th of June, I'd certainly flip it through.
Yeah.
At this stage, I'm good.
One of the things which has been drawn to my attention since the initial discussions around this was, I think, the relationship and the effect that the Cromwell Hall development will have on Vincent, Tiliot and Maniatoto ratepayers. I think it's critical that people understand that the capital capex is ring fenced and falls in Cromwell. But the OPEX will be spread across the district.
If it's districtised,
Eh?
if it's districtised.
Yeah, if it's districtised. Because there has been some concerns, and it is, why should we be paying for that? When we, and I think in our communications, we're going to have to put some real energy into how we explain that, because, and I think one of those graphs in there, which is the most pertinent one, which brings the balance in, is that the cost of roading, which is districtised, is huge in the Maniatada. A lot lower here in the Teviot and Vincent and the Teviot. And that's an example where you may lose in the swing, but you're gaining on the roundabouts. I just think that's that's where the effort needs to be put into place, because if this community is going to buy in and support this, especially with the grief that we've been going through with our annual plan process and subsequent rate increases, we need this community's support broadly. Now, and I recall when we districtised water, it became a real issue. It's not an issue anymore because it was the best call council made at the time. And I support this proposal going forward, and I think the opportunities for boards to be with a greater involvement with their communities is the old adage, one door shuts, a window opens situation. So yeah.
Echo what the others have said. I mean, it is always, we always do have our community at the forefront of every decision that we make. And that's not just one element of our community, it's the entire community. And Vincent is a big ward as far as geographical spread. We are quite significant, we have quite significant differences. And I see this as, with a long-term view, I would like to be challenged to see how we can't actually do this, because I think it's going to be, if you take a long-term view for our whole community, then it's going to be the best way forward.
Echoing what everyone else is saying, I think short-term view would say may not look like the best option for Vincent, but we do have to think longer term, and given the current financial situation the whole district's in, it's the most logical move, and it is fairer, especially on those smaller wards. I do think it's important that we are communicating quite well with the community, because I think the first day I sat at this table, some older residents in Clyde, not just my grandparents, have commented about, well, why is it that Clyde residents pay for things in Alex and vice versa? They've never quite moved on from that merger of those wards. So I think that is important. We bring as much of the community along with the facts as we can and make sure that we're on top of that misinformation, unlike the delegations conversation with Cromwell.
I think for me, there's a real transparency in everybody in our district paying X for pools, X for water, X for roading, and X for parks and reserves and that sort of thing. Recognising that there's a few, but not that many people who don't move around in between the wards, utilising different things in each area. Yes, yep, thank you for the reminder. Sorry. And I think too, it's been highlighted the challenges and inefficiencies that come from running 5 sets of books across the business. And when people get their rates bills, seeing the I pay 0.0091, the differentials make it complicated to understand what you're paying for what. Whereas I guess if it were more clear in terms of what people were chipping in for district assets, that would be very helpful. Sorry, Tony, I couldn't see you on the screen there initially. Now I can. Fire away. You're on mute.
How's that?
Here we go.
No?
Fire away. Yep.
I'm just trying to work through the mechanics of probably Martin's comment about differentiating CAPEX and OPEX within the districtisation. we've talked about putting perhaps the central stories into LTP, and is that sort of halfway down that districtisation kind of process as well? Are we looking to look at some of those things? And the Blossom Festival probably comes under the same guise, and the question's been talked about there. So I'm not really sure how that works down in those levels. The whole museum strategy in OPEX.
Yes, it's a really good question, Tony, because particularly the museum strategy affects both Vincent and Cromwell, I think, quite significantly. So yes, under the current modelling, still obviously to go through all these conversations and the decision on 31st of July to talk to our community does involve the likes of central stories, just like the Cromwell OPEX over time. And at this stage, the proposal in the modelling is that the museum grant funding and buildings would be districtised. So that doesn't automatically lead to a, hey, we're not going to fund central stories. That would have to be a future conversation with the community. That may happen or not in the LTP. At this stage, there is, with the districtisation, it would come up to that council level.
Yeah, and it's probably not just central stories either, is it? We've got a bunch of museums. It's a big conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So it'd be like the likes of the community halls and the Mania Toto. So essentially all property would be districtised under this proposal. And museum funding, when it is, of course, it's so interlinked with some of our council buildings like Central Stories with the museum, and it is funding with it. Currently, the Cromwell Museum is housed within our building. Teviot and the Mania Toto, it's different. So it's really working through those.
I think it's going to be the key in this will be when we speak to our communities, making sure we're really clear so that people understand what it is that we're talking about, especially the fact that we're looking at the last 18%, I think it is, of our business. Everything else is already paid at a district rate. So, and then I think some real clarity around the endowment land stuff for all of our wards, and making sure people understand that that money that has been gifted to a particular ward in the past via land will remain within that ward as such. Yeah.
And I think it's a really good point that Councillor McPherson has made around, and some others around how we communicate this. So as part of the 26th of June workshop, we'll obviously have the chairs of delegates talk about initial thoughts and questions. We're also going to present the comms plan because it is something that we need to get right, and we want to have that conversation with council well ahead of presenting the 31st of July paper.
Well, on that, has anybody else got any additional questions or comments? Was there anything else we wanted to cover on, Tony?
That's good, thanks.
Receives the report and accepts the level of significance. To consider further districtisation of council activities and how the Vincent Community Board will provide feedback to the council. So I am guessing that one will possibly come out, and I would propose that once Jaden has attended I and Tracy, not Martin, the workshop on the 26th of June, that information is communicated to all of us, and at some stage between the 26th of June and the 5th of July, we will come up with a formal submission that can be sent to council. So I'm going to suggest that the recommendation resolution say agrees the delegate to attend the workshop. It's already read that the Deputy Chair attends the workshop to provide informal feedback from Vincent Board to Council. And then agree to provide feedback to Council by 5 p.m.
That's the formal one.
Written feedback, yeah.
So who's going to compose that?
I will compose that in conjunction with Jaden, and trip in via email, I suspect, until we have something
Circulated.
by 5 p.m. Friday, so that we can then get it through over the weekend.
Yeah.
So we can all do that together.
Yeah, thank you.
And just to clarify, it doesn't need to be formally used or anything like that. An email is perfectly fine to see through. What we will do is verbatim have it in the 31 July report, so that staff aren't paraphrasing it correctly. Yeah.
There you go, Martin. You're free for your interpretive dance.
And I'd like to see the team do the verbatim interpretation.
Please don't.
So rather than to consider, do we just change that to considered?
With dance.
Because we've done it. Considered further districtisation. Please for the beaches and Brookshire. Be Monday, 8th of July. Okay, then move it into seconder, please. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Martin. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Okay, Jason, thank you. So we now get back slightly to Sarah, our GNZ Community Board Conference, page 53.
Who wants to go?
That's about it, really. So just have a look at
Speaking
who would like to go.
Oh, well,
I can't.
No.
Oh,
Sharing, aren't you?
Who's sharing? I think it's pretty rude that they put it on while we're sharing.
I've been to one a few years back, and they were really quite a valuable experience as far as meeting your fellow board members. Yeah, the thing I took away from it is that, again, it showed the amount of the difference and here in Central that we use our boards compared to the rest of the country. And we're probably becoming, especially following that discussion we've just had, getting to a place where we're going to be more like our community board neighbours, as opposed to, because they were board members when you're talking, were stunned with the amount of actually delegations that we had and power that we had. It really showed a difference.
When I ran for the Young Elected Members Community Board rep position,
Yeah.
a lot were really surprised.
Yeah.
On the level of delegation we had, to the point that for a few I actually had to send them the delegations list.
Yeah.
Because they thought I was mistaken.
Yeah. Well, if you like, I'll nominate Jaden then, because he wants to go.
I just think it highlights the, I like that this one is going to focus on localism, which is obviously really pertinent to us, especially as we look at distritisation going forward, and then what that means for community boards and how we add value and provide that.
Climate change session also is quite interesting.
Yes, absolutely. Is there anybody, Tony, did you want to make any comment or have any thoughts on this?
No, I think I'm okay, I guess. Yeah, it's just helped me clarify a few things in the last half hour. Yep, I'm good.
And I just wondered, Sarah, if you can just comment on the funding that's available and where that sits and what it's to be used for.
Yeah, funding would come from the elected member training budget, which is already in place and allocated for this training.
Yeah.
That's all would come out as part of that. And there was sufficient funding for one member from each board to be able to go from that reasonably simple budget. There's not too many other financial considerations we need to consider in terms of training.
And if it wasn't utilised, if no one was able
It
to
would still sit in that budget line and would roll over to the next training.
Thank you. So on that, Jaden has indicated his interest. Martin has nominated him as the attendee. Tracy has seconded that. Did anybody else want to go? No? In that case, all those in favour of Jaden attending the conference, say aye. Against? Carried. Summer's going to be thrilled with you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to everybody. I just, hoping to be around for a while and just trying to get every opportunity to learn what I can.
Thank you. Right. We don't have a mayor's report today. He is at National Council, so no doubt people fill us in on more of that. My chair's report is very brief because we were only here last week. So, I did attend the half mile planting after our meeting last week, which was wonderful, and I it's fair to say we absolutely smashed it. We got it done really quick, thanks to many hands making light work. And then I acknowledge the amazing contribution from community members, including Roger, on the Sunday, which the weather gods were smiling down on you all as you were out there making the most of it. Very good. And we attended a council meeting last week as well, where we talked about the tax rises for this community. Thanks very much to staff for finding yet another couple of additional % to bring us down. I think every little bit helps in the current climate. They were talking about other communities' rates rises on the radio this morning, and I think that we are certainly not the only community looking at that sort of percentage increase. And I look forward to attending. There is a meeting coming up in Clyde later on this week to talk about the streetscape work there with local businesses who are interested. So look forward to that. Good job.
Thanks. My report goes back not just to last week, but to the previous full board meeting. I attended the REAP AGM, annual general meeting of the rural education. Chaired 2 Creative Writers Circle meetings, attended a meeting of the John Dale Clark Charitable Trust, which I'm a trustee. I attended 2 meetings of Dunstan Friendship Club, attended a meeting of the Central Otago District Arts Trust, attended 2 meetings of the Alexandra District Museum Board, and we've heard from them today, so I had a preview of what we were presented with. Enjoyed the exceptional aurora displays resulting from a large coronal mass ejection from the sun. Spectacular. If you had the opportunity, you would be in a great place, Tracy, to see that.
Well, it wasn't Dunedin, but
Okay.
unfortunately.
I took part in 2 planting sessions, the Half Mile Reserve. I think that was really great to see that synergy between the council and Haihaiata Trust and bringing that together, and then the backing of the community, including large numbers of youngsters with boundless energy. That was yesterday really great. And along with other residents at Chapman Road, and I think you've got an email about this a week or 2 ago, we are enduring 4 full-day power outages for planned maintenance. Now that's all to the good, because it would have a good result, but choosing almost the shortest day, coldest weather to do this was a bit tough on local residents. That's my report.
Thank you.
Just keeping in touch with Bex and Bell's Cottage, we've got another meeting in early July, and also attended several sporting events over the last 3 or 4 weeks. The last one being on Saturday at Omaka in the fog. And I don't know if you were there, Tracy, but what a crowd. It was incredible. And
That's noble, the fog.
it was fog. That fog at Omaka, but that was okay. It was the rugby games that I've been going to, it was from juniors. There's a couple of hundred juniors, and these events are just getting great support from the community. And it was really good chat afterwards in the club rooms and during the game, and normally not about rate increases, which is really good. But probably more comments about reverse mortgages. We won't go there. But apart from that, thank you.
Yeah. Martin.
I have nothing to report.
Perfect. Grace.
Planting at the half mile, like some other fellow members, it was exceptional and also very well run. I thought it was very efficient. I also attended a meeting, a COINC meeting, Central Otago Health Incorporated meeting, and I just would encourage the members of our community to keep their eyes open for how, you know, some potential correspondence coming out in the next year in relation to that entity and how we go forward to better suit our community as a whole. So just, yeah, encouraging some eyes open on that. And the only other thing I would like to just say is that this week we've got coming up a meeting for, well, meeting / celebration to, which is called the Gift Land out in, well, it's actually being held out in Paulburn this year, but it is where, so part of the Cow show, the Central Otago AMP show, I should say, is that the rural community gifts lands to help support, and it's a fun night where we have a barbecue type thing and so that's but this year we managed to raise, and it's all through the young farmers, which is, they do an amazing job running it, and so that we managed to raise just shy of $8,000. So, and we also have animals that, what happens, we also donate to meet the need as well. So it's giving back to the community in more ways than one. So I just wanted to commend those groups out there for that.
I was reading off, you see that in changing names.
There's not for any bridge.
So I attended the planting afternoon on last Wednesday with everybody else, and it was really cool and really well coordinated. Had a meeting of Community Networks Aotearoa, the executive committee, where we were discussing the impact of the lack of funding for not-for-profits and the negative impacts that's having on communities across the country. I met with the Alexandra Hockey Turf Committee to discuss their hopes and dreams for a full turf in Alexandra one day. Very hard to say no to my old social studies teacher for that one, so I had to go along. Attended the Districtisation workshop last week or the week before. And I've been doing the LGNZ kind of learning modules, so they've been really good, and I'll just encourage everyone to have a look at those. Also, just want to acknowledge the recent election of Dewald De Beer as the chair of the Alexandrian District Youth Trust, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does there. It's a trust that I've been continuing to follow and is really dear to me, I guess. And also wanted to acknowledge the Mayor and councillors for showing real leadership and decision making last week when it came to the submissions on the new plan. So good work to you. I know it was unpopular, but you did the right thing.
Thank you very much. Tony.
Okay, we had a Blossom Festival committee meeting, which was subsequent to the authorisation of their grant down from their application of 25 to 20. So we had a robust discussion about that. One of the things that came out and mirrors the ADMI conversation was, does it belong in LTP rather than then scrambling it annually for the funds, which is a significant part of the budget for the Blossom Festival. And I think historically it might have been part of the LTP. I don't know how long ago or why that ceased to be. But a little bit like ADMI, it's got pretty far-reaching benefits across the communities outside of just Vincent as well, in terms of people it attracts. So I don't know what the process is to take that forward, but that's probably something that fell out of that conversation that we've got on the radar.
Thanks, Tony.
Can we-
You look like you want to say something.
I was going to say, Tony, this board with its recommendations as far as the annual plan process we've just gone through, has made a recommendation to council that Blossom Festival be considered in the LTP cycle next year.
Right. Okay, job done.
Job done.
On that, I'm happy to move that my report and the members' reports be received. James, that was second those. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. We now move to the status reports on page 64, which includes status updates and the KACB minutes from the AGM, in which Scoons was the guest speaker on.
What a privilege.
Yes. Has anybody got any questions or comments on those status reports?
I'm really taking this read.
No, I got a
Question.
question.
Question last night.
Yep.
Let's do it.
And my question, something's going a little bit funny here. It won't open. I just had to, so this is the Clyde Museum redevelopment. For the signboard, for the locker, chase the quote and will have soon. That was in May. Has that been received?
If we've got no further update on that, then I would assume no.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it's been, this quote's been coming, yeah, quotes, is there only one person who does, or one entity that does this type of work, or is it something that we can get a quote from somebody?
So we're waiting for a quote from the 12th of May.
Yeah, you know, I'd hate to put you on, I haven't got the exact answer with me, I'll flick you guys out an email, but I mean, at this point, yeah. It's probably the best decision.
Some of us.
Yeah,
Um,
they might be watching and
Yes.
oh, here we go. I just, get this. So that, obviously, I'm just wanting to double check that with regards to the Alexandra Cemetery, etc., that the new parks officer has been appointed, and so is that moving ahead now?
Essentially, we do have a new park office being appointed, it doesn't start till July, but the staff have picked that project up to keep it moving forward.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, that's me.
Cool. Any further questions on those? Perfect. You mover and seconder, please. Thank you, Tracy and Jaden. All those in favour? Against? Carried. The date of our next meeting, it's quite a way away now. 30th of July. 30th of July, 2024. That is the end of our.
I'm actually going to be away
We're going to do it the
on the
module.
30th of July.
Would you like to enter your apologies now?
Does it have to be on the 30th of July? Because I'm here. I quite like being here. Can you make it?
You're welcome to zoom in from whichever tropical beach you're on.
Oh,
They've got good Wi-Fi there.
yeah, I probably wouldn't do that. But if that date is set down, then that's fine. I will put my apology in there.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Wonderful, end of formal meeting at 11:25.
Excellent.
And now, Jaden's going to lead us through. Does anybody want to have a quick break before we move to the informal part? Fill up your cup of tea.
That's why it's